Well, howdy, and welcome to our first virtual talk for Earth Month. I'm Kelly Wellman with the Office of Sustainability, and want to make sure that you are seeing my screen. Do you see the Earth Month screen there? Great. Okay. I'm the director here in the Office of Sustainability. Very excited to be here today. We've got a great talk on the impacts of urbanization and light pollution on butterflies and birds. That's going to be done by our amazing students, Julie and Katie. I've got a few things I want to go over before I turn the screen over to them. First, just to make things better for your experience, try to make sure your Zoom is in side-by-side mode. I will activate the live transcript mode here momentarily so that you can be sure and follow along. If you have questions for our speakers today, think about those, drop them in the chat. And when we're done talking, we'll be able to go back and revisit your questions. And we are actually recording. So that should have notified you of that when you dropped into the Zoom room. This is our first virtual event, part of Earth Month. And what that means is you can collect code words to help you win prizes. For every code word you get this month, that's one entry into our random draw giveaway. We're going to have one on a PowerPoint. It might be spoken and or also could be written in the chat. When you watch us live, you get even more chances to win. And those extra code words are added into the chat sometime later in the talk. So keep your eye there. Keep track of all of your code words that you're able to collect throughout the entire month and submit all of them in one email only. So one email submitted to our office with every code word you've collected all month by the end of, and so get that submitted by April 21st. If you want to see all of the prize details and rules, you can find those at text.ag/Earth Month. Just to give you an idea of some of the prizes, we're going to draw one Tier 1 winner, and the winner of that draw gets to pick from any of these amazing gift opportunities. Tier 2 prize winners, we'll have 2 of them, and we have several great options, again, that are nice and sustainable. And then the Tier 3 prize winners I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and mute this. Tier 3, we'll have 5 Tier 3 winners who can go and pick from the prizes you see listed here on the screen. Last thing before we turn it over, I want to be aware that it is a champion level sustainable event that we have today. All of our program here has considered things like waste, and as you can tell, being a virtual talk eliminates greenhouse gas emissions from carbon transmission, and we've not generating any waste at all today. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to turn it over to Julie and let you get to the fun of the day.
Okay. So today we're going to be presenting the birds and the butterflies. So I'm Julie Nieto. I'm an environmental studies major in my junior year.
Hello, and I'm Katie Velasquez, and I'm a general engineer and I'm a sophomore.
Sorry. So today for the summary, we'll be talking about the birds, the butterflies, urbanization, and light pollution, and what you can do.
Okay, so I'm going to be discussing the birds. So birds have 2 migrating seasons. So they have one in the fall and then one in the spring. Like one in the fall for whenever they come down for winter, and one in the spring. Texas is a critical location. On this map right here, you see 4 different, I guess, flyways is what they call them. And as you see, like the biggest one is the green one, and Texas is the majority of that section right there. And they travel mostly at night to avoid predators, and it's cooler, so they don't have to waste as much energy trying to maintain their body temperatures. And these are some of the many birds that come down to Texas during these migration periods. And I can see there's the ruby-throated hummingbird. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're really popular here. And the roseate spoonbill as well is really popular in Houston, as far as I know. But yeah, there's many birds, and these are just a few of the many.
So for the butterflies, they only live around 2 to 6 weeks. For their pathway of migration, they have 4 generations that complete it. So the first generation, the second generation, and the third generation, they go all the way up to the north into Canada, and their fourth generation has to complete their pathway all the way down into Mexico. The monarchs travel up to 3,000 miles into central Mexico, where there are other butterfly species that might travel way longer or way shorter. And in early February of 2024, they have seen a 59% decline in monarch numbers. So today we're going to be focusing mainly on the monarch butterflies since they're mainly focused on in Texas. Their pathway is around 2,500 miles across the Americas. There are a few rare instincts that migrate to warmer climates, and their milkweed is the kind of plant species that monarchs need to survive. They lay their eggs, and they also get their nutrients from these plants.
Okay, so I'll also be discussing urbanization. So urbanization is the development of land, and as more land gets developed, there's less habitat space for animals of all kinds, not just like birds and butterflies, but also just, deer and rodents as well, just in general. And urbanization has many impacts on the natural world. So the urban highlight heat effect is a phenomenon where urban areas tend to be a few degrees warmer than the rural and less developed areas around them. There's an increase in light pollution. So as like more, since it's densely populated, more people need more light, and that infrastructure is gonna increase the light pollution and creating dangerous environments for animals. So not only is like unnatural like materials there like steel and glass, but also like pets is could be a danger for many animals as well. And species isolationism is the phenomenon where a group of animals can't like move or like meet other animals of the same species, so it causes like inbreeding.
So for light pollution is the excessive or inappropriate use of artificial light in the outdoors. Um, the use of artificial light can affect humans as well as wildlife, and it can also impact our visibility of celestial objects in the sky. As population and urbanization increases, it's now been stated as a global issue, and around 99% of Americans and Europeans live under sky glow. So the main problem and primary cause of light pollution is the poor infrastructure of outdoor lighting. So in outdoor lighting that we see around campus, there can be lighting that emits up to the sky, which is really bad of infrastructure since the lighting should be facing down to the ground for us humans and not up to the sky. So if you see lighting outside that has covers on the top and to the sides of it, that means it's best to reduce light pollution. So these are main sources of light pollution: electronic advertising, parking lots, and cities.
Yes, this is our code word for our presentation. So I don't know if you want to jot that down, maybe see on the slide for a couple seconds.
Okay, so the impacts of light pollution on these organisms. So butterflies are mainly impacted on their health. So metabolism, immune response, their circadian rhythms, they're all affected, which can cause disorientation for traveling. And without darkness, their clock will not function. And their molecular processes for navigation is also impacted, and it forces the butterflies to continue to fly when they should be actually resting. So the alterations for the birds, they can include when they sing and when they do not sing. So since birds see the outdoor lighting illuminating their habitats and their homes, they can cause them to sing and hunt during nighttime, which alerts the predators, and it also causes them to avoid their habitats.
Yeah. So the impacts of urbanization on butterflies and birds. So butterflies, the urban heat effect is a lot more dangerous for them, as butterflies are very delicate species and they're keystone species. So it's really detrimental, like having warmer temperatures like that, and like less food and resources. So there's not a lot of flowering plants in urban areas, and if there is, it's usually like just for decoration, like ornamental plants, and they usually aren't from the same region or don't provide enough nutrients for these butterflies. And there's a phenomenon that butterflies emerge or like come out of the cocoon earlier in urban areas than rural. So many believe it's an adaptation that they evolved, but still like unknown. And for birds, lots of collisions with tall structures, so birds can't see glass, and that can be very fatal if they collide head on. Species isolationism, as I mentioned before, species isolationism is basically when they can't meet other, like they're basically trapped in one location. They can't meet other organisms of the same species, so it can lead to inbreeding and less safety. So lots of pets, like cats, can be very detrimental, like outdoor cats, and pollution as well. So like any glass or plastic on the ground can be detrimental if they think it's food or they use it for their nest. It could get caught on their chicks.
So for the stats and the numbers, in the US alone, we've seen 5 species of butterflies. They've gone extinct since 1950, and there's also been a 29 butterfly species that have been listed endangered national. And since then, we've seen a roughly around 21 million of population of monarch butterflies. And recent studies have estimated that between 100 million and 1 million birds are killed in the US due to collisions with buildings. So solutions, what can you do and some organizations that support what you can do? So Lights Out Texas is a statewide campaign that teaches you education, awareness, and action to address light pollution. They encourage everyone to turn off their lights from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. during fall and spring migration periods.
So the International Dark Sky Association is an organization that tries to promote and educate people on like dark skies and the benefits to both people and animals. And Big Bend National Park is actually one of the biggest in the lower states. It says right there, biggest in the lower states, and is gold tier national park for their dark skies. And we are in the midst of the spring migration, as it states right here on the slide. Spring migration started in March. It is not going to end until June 15th. So please turn off your lights. Fall migration is going to start up again in August 15th and then all the way to November 30th. And Texas is a critical location for birds and butterflies. And it start in that period is going to be September 6th to October 29th.
So the butterfly migration dates are pretty similar to the birds. So spring migration starts in March and it goes to June. And in fall migration, it starts in August to October. So what can you do? You can plant milkweed seeds in your garden, turn off all outdoor lighting by 11 p.m. and make sure you close your blinds as well. You can preserve surrounding trees or make birdhouses with seeds. Avoid the use of pesticides in your garden and advocate for green infrastructure and spaces in your area.
No. So these are all our sources. If you want to learn more, you can always check these websites to learn more about these different things you can do or how detrimental some things in the urban areas are to animals. Any questions?
Thank you, Julie and Katie. Yes, does anyone online have any questions? You can always unmute yourself and ask a question. You could also decide to drop it in the chat. While you're thinking about that, I am putting in, I'm going to put the code words in the chat for those of you who are here online, so be sure to record those. And I don't mind asking, oh, here's a question. Can you go back to the second to the last slide?
Yes, I can. Second to the last slide. This slide.
Is that the right slide, Shamara?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Kelly.
All right. Well, I have a just kind of a general question for you all. What made you decide to pick this topic?
I could go first. I really like butterflies. They have been my favorite insect since forever. and I always like seeing them outside, especially during their migrations down to Mexico. And since they're mainly in Texas, so yeah, I just really like them, and I really like the birds too, since they like sing and they're just all like really pretty.
For me, butterflies, like monarchs, are mainly what I see out and about. And for birds, um, in my like I live in a suburban home, and they've been building more, and I've seen more birds like come to our backyard. And at first, we thought, oh, like it's really cool, but that's when we like realized like, oh, like they're destroying their homes, building more houses. So we're just seeing that kind of moved me to try to inform more people about how that is impacting them.
I think that's pretty powerful, Katie, to go from saying, wow, I'm enjoying seeing these birds, to then asking yourself, why are you seeing so many more, and connecting that with urbanization and what that means. So yeah, thank you. Thank you both for sharing that. Any other questions from the audience for the speakers today? Again, you can always unmute yourself, or you can drop it in the chat.
Well, I'm wondering if you all know about like invasive species or anything like that is affecting the birds and butterflies, and if you know maybe
Yeah.
how folks are addressing invasive species around
Yeah.
this issue.
I actually know that there's a really invasive species that's just or like has recently infiltrated Texas. It is the collared Eurasian dove, and so many people confuse them with the mourning dove, but the collared Eurasian dove has like a distinct black collar around their neck, and they're really invasive. And they take homes of like native birds, and they are really competitive for food.
We do have another question. Let's see. How can species isolation have an impact on the future?
Oh, so species isolationism so like that can cause inbreeding, and that can be detrimental to like the fertility of some of the offspring of that. So it could be less population in the future if it's not addressed.
And another question, if we need to use pesticide in our yard, is there a certain brand or type of pesticide that's safe to okay to use?
I don't really know of any specific or certain brand types that there is, but I would just go to the store and read the labels. Also, do research by yourself and figure out what's good for your garden and what's good for the animals as well.
Another question, is milkweed the only plant I should be cultivating in my yard?
I wouldn't say it's the only plant to cultivate in your yard. There's also many other wild flowers that you can grow and garden as well. I would just research about the wildflowers, make sure they're not invasive to Texas as well. And I think other than that, just research, but it's not the only plant you should be gardening.
Yes, monoculture can be dangerous, so having a variety is really good. And you can attract more than just butterflies if you plant a variety. So like hummingbirds, I know there's a lot of flowers in Texas that could attract hummingbirds as well.
On one of the earlier slides, it might have been yours, Julie, I noticed that there was a significant decrease in the, yeah, I think it was probably early on. Yeah, thank you for going back.
This one right here.
I think so. Hang on. Yeah, the 59% decline in monarchs. I mean, that's a staggering amount of loss. Do you, and they're taking this data. I have a couple questions around it. It's like, one, like how are they actually able to measure that kind of loss? Do you know?
I don't know specifically how they measure it, but I know that this statistic was taken from a director of the Fort Worth Botanic Gardens. He said that the numbers went down drastically due to a drought that they faced when entering Mexico in 2023 of October. But he said to take this like with a grain of salt, since butterflies are so resilient, but it should take some time for them to bounce back in their population numbers. But we shouldn't just like say like, oh, they're going extinct because there's a 59% decline, but we should just be aware of what happened.
Well, it's interesting that a drought cycle could cause that much of a decline, but at the same time, I think it might heighten the importance of your suggestions to do things to make sure that these migration pathways remain safe and healthy so that not only butterflies, but also birds can thrive. So that's very interesting. All right, any other questions for our speakers today? If not, I'm going to share my screen. This may, yep. Bear with me. We really appreciate you joining us today as we talked about migration and urbanization and the impacts that has on both butterflies and birds. Our next virtual talk, the next chance for you to get 5 code words, is going to be this Friday at 11 a.m. And we'll be talking about river pollution impacts and the solutions of that. 2 more of our students, Riley Stallings and Carol Valadares, will be giving that one on Friday. So we hope to see you again soon. And yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a great Earth Month, and it's going to be an exciting several weeks ahead. Bye.